Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and Shelley Epperly here. Today is Monday, December the 31st, 2018. It is 8 p.m. in New York, 5 p.m. in Los Angeles. That makes it after 1 in the morning in London, England. And if you are in Sydney, Australia, we're getting an echo here too on top of everything else. Let's see if we can turn the echoes off. There we go. But in Sydney, Australia, it's noontime. So thank you for wherever you are in the morning trying to tune in and join us on this live stream. We are once again doing a Q&A here on the Law of Attraction, and we're live streaming this to the Law of Attraction Changed My Life group as well as to the LOA Today page on Facebook. So if you're part of watching this live, welcome. We're glad to have you with us. And feel free to be typing your questions or comments or anything you want to share with us in the comment section of either the LOA Today page or the group page, and we'll be glad to pick it up and talk about it and toss it around and see what kind of answers we can come up with. So, Shelley, we haven't talked since the Christmas holiday. I know I asked you before the podcast, but it sounds like you had a pretty good one. Did you have a good holiday?
Yeah, we did have a good holiday. We went over to my brother's and my mom's house on the Saturday before Christmas and had our family Christmas thing, and then we had the kids here on Christmas Eve, and then Christmas we just relaxed and we actually ended up going to McDonald's.
Okay.
Well, that's different. Fries because their food always makes me feel horrible, but I love their French fries. But my husband was just craving cheeseburger. So we just went for a drive, and it was like, oh, McDonald's is open. Let's go there. So it sounds like a kind of a pathetic Christmas, but it was everything was over with, so it was just a time to relax.
Oh, that's funny though. That's funny. I have never heard a story like that one. I spent my holiday at the McDonald's. Okay.
Well, we couldn't even go in because only the drive-through was open. They weren't letting you in the lobby. So.
Yeah. Well, I can see that. So that makes sense. Well, I'm glad you had a good one. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say we just had a really good Christmas.
And you got a new toy to play with there. You have a camera.
Yep. I got the new Logitech webcam, so now I don't have to use my phone or my husband's laptop anymore. I can use my own.
You're official. Fantastic. Congratulations.
I know,
that's great.
I'm official.
You're looking good.
Thank
You're looking
you.
Great. Yeah.
Thanks.
Well.
So, I was just gonna bring up a couple subjects, this time around, just because, I'm kind of a Facebook addict, I guess. I mean, it's because I work at home. It's my social life, you know.
Mm-hmm, yep.
I don't go to work every day, so I don't get to talk to everybody at break. But I was just gonna I just wanted to touch base on just the fact that the law of attraction is happening all the time, whether you are working with it or not. Because I just hear a lot of people say, oh, I want to learn how to use the law of attraction. It's like you're already using it. Like There's not, you learn to use it to your advantage. You've been using it since, before you were born, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing was you kind of, I believe you commented on that post that I put about relationships.
You'll have to remind me. I don't remember.
Okay, so I've just been seeing, especially on the Law of Attraction Changed My Life that we're on right now, a lot of people going on there and they're like, how do I attract my ex back? Or how do I attract a certain person?
Oh,
right. How do I attract my soulmate?
Right.
And so I was just pointing out that your soulmate, I think a lot of people have the misconception that when you meet someone that you resonate with or you fall in love with, that it's just like this, it's like bliss. Like if you meet someone and there's some issues, then it's not for you because you shouldn't have any issues in this soulmate blissful relationship. And I think that, we come into relationships with everyone, including romantic relationships, for a reason. to challenge us, to teach us lessons and that sort of thing. And I just think that there's a lot of people out there that are just looking for this soulmate relationship that's just total bliss all the time, and they give up on something that, obviously there's relationships you should get out of, platonic and romantic. There's toxic friendships and relationships and all that, but
yeah.
I don't know. I think because of the name of the group, the Law of Attraction, a lot of people think it's about attracting a mate or a significant other or whatever. I think they get a little confused what the group is about.
Possibly.
So I've just kind of run into that on a couple Law of Attraction groups I've been on, is just people asking like dating advice and, we're fighting and what should I do and that sort of thing. And people are throwing all this, Law of Attraction stuff at them, and they're like, what? Like they don't really understand the whole concept of the group or whatever. So I don't know. I just know that, I'm 23 years married and 25 years in the relationship, and there's definitely been times I've wanted to walk away, but I'm so glad I didn't, because we have grown together so incredibly, as friends and parents and
absolutely
the whole package. So
oh yeah, I agree with you.
Wanted to kind of touch base with that, because I just think that that's important to take into account.
I agree with you. I mean, like you said earlier, the law of attraction, it goes on at all times, and I would add it touches every aspect of our lives, including our relationships. So,
right.
I saw there was a post I was responding to on one of the other groups just before we came on to do the podcast today. Somebody had posted something. I guess they had a really horrible event. They had I think a parent who suicided. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was really, really a horrible event. And somebody had been suggesting to them, I don't even remember what the context was, but in general, there was a suggestion being made to them that the law of attraction works for them. Like the law of attraction is like this godlike creature that, dishes out favors and so forth. Which was certainly news to me. It's not the way I'd ever heard about it. But nevertheless, I think there may be something to what you said, that people think that law of attraction groups are about attracting a mate. Because certainly there are a number of groups where there's a large number of people, particularly young people, very often women, who are posting things about getting an ex back, or how do I attract my soulmate, or my, what do they call it, my twin flame, or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think they have some idea of, you can't be on one of these groups for very long without getting some idea of what it's about. You just pick it up after a while. But you're probably right. There's probably some confusion about it. So I like to point out that the law of attraction has the word law in it for a good reason. It's like the law of gravity or Newton's 3 laws of motion. It's a universal law, and as such, it's impersonal. I mean, it's not like you can fall off of a building, be halfway down, and say, law of gravity, I'd like you to change something so that I can survive this fall. The law of gravity isn't there for you to say, oh, I'm so sorry, Walt. I know you're in the middle of this fall to the ground that's going to kill you, but I'm going to change things for you if you just think the right thoughts. That's not what the law of gravity does. The law of gravity just attracts objects together. It's it. That's the whole thing. And the law of attraction is a similar kind of thing. It's just a law. It's just the way things operate. It doesn't have
I totally agree with you, because I've seen, just with the new year, everybody's like, get rid of the old and bring the new in and all that stuff, and so many of the posts that I've seen are like, oh, well, the universe is bringing you wonderful things in 2019. Yeah. Are you ready for them? It's like, no, you need to be bringing yourself wonderful things in 2019. Like, that's how it works. And that was the other thing that I wrote down that I kind of wanted to talk about, was just using the law of attraction all the time. Because, I kind of talked about it when we had our last podcast, how people kind of get, like they do their affirmations and then they just go through the day complaining and being worried and, finding all these problems in their life. And then before they go to bed, they do a few affirmations and a few visualizations, and then they, fall asleep worrying about how this is going to get paid, or who they have to talk to tomorrow, or what,
Right.
and then they wonder, they're like, this isn't working, you know, and it's like, to me, using the law of attraction to your advantage is choosing to be as happy as you can be and to find the best in every situation.
Yes, I agree. That's very important.
And it's like, and it's a daily practice. It's not just like, I don't even do like scheduled affirmations anymore. I do a little bit of meditating in the morning when I'm doing my yoga, and it's usually guided because I have kind of a monkey mind that goes a million miles an hour. So I will listen to a YouTube meditation or talk or something while I'm doing my yoga because it keeps me focused on that. But I used to do the affirmations and the visualizations regularly, but now it's just like, it's just what I do. It just happens naturally throughout my day where I find myself like, oh, like I have a 16-year-old son and, it's like he wants to go hang out with his friends tonight. And I find myself like, oh, I don't, no, New Year's, you're staying home where it's safe, and then I just go, no, it's going to end up better than I expected, and since I've said that, he's just like, no, we decided to stay home tonight. It's just like,
there you go. All right.
Not that he would have had a choice, but, it just stresses you out when you have to deal with your kids and tell them no. And, they just want to go have fun, but you need to keep them safe, that whole thing. But,
sure.
But it just becomes like habit, like just how I function mentally and emotionally throughout the day is I just stop myself and go, no, that's going to happen better than expected, or no, that's going to go, this is what it looks like if it goes perfectly, instead of this is how it goes imperfectly, So, like you were talking to, I don't remember her name, but the gal that you were talking to the other night, and you guys were talking about, how you can put so much energy into worrying and fear and then how you can put so much energy into the excitement of what's going to happen,
Yeah, that was Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie McEwen and I were talking about that. You're right. I do think there's actually a place for saying things like, the universe brings me something, but you have to do it knowingly and with understanding, because experientially it seems like stuff is coming to us. Like when I've told everybody the story about what has been happening with Louise and how we had our Christmas miracle and so forth. And it seemed every step of the way like the universe was not only they had our back, so to speak. It was like a being that had our back. It seemed like that. It felt like that in some ways. But there were also a series of events that lined up and that dovetailed perfectly. It feels like the universe is giving you something. So it becomes useful to describe things that way. But we have to keep in mind, it isn't like there is a God figure that is directing things for me. It's not that much of a personification. We use that as a way of describing, quickly. Here's metaphorically how it appears to work, how it feels when it's working for you. But what's actually happening is not personified. There's no actual persona there. It's just we describe it that way because it's easier to describe it that way. And if we can remember that, then it's fine to describe it as, well, the universe brought me something, as long as we remember the context. If we remember the context is, well, we attracted it, we drew it in, then it works. It works just fine. It's kind of similar to when we talked about, when Cindy Chavez and I talked about Neville Goddard. I mean, Neville, we call it the Neville decoder ring because there are so many different ways that he uses words and scriptural context and so forth that are so different from the way everybody uses them that you have to almost like have a glossary to keep track of all the different ways that he expresses things. But if you have that glossary, or we call it the Neville decoder ring, if you have the Neville decoder ring and you can kind of do word replacements and figure out what he's saying, well, it doesn't really matter if the words he uses mean different things in a different context. As long as you understand it in this context, then it works. And that's all that really matters. Yeah. So context is everything. Context and perception, because our individual perceptions play a huge role in all of this. But, it's just, I mean, in one way we could actually say we are God, and as God we are giving ourselves gifts and so forth, and that would be, in a sense, true. It's metaphorical, but it would be true. And we talk about inside and outside of ourselves. And even that's metaphorical because as far as any of us really know, this is all kind of this grand illusion going on here that we've created.
Right.
You know? So is
Right.
there really an outside? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it depends how you look at it. But it's certainly a whole lot easier to talk about an outside and an inside. So we do. You know?
Right.
It doesn't really matter whether there's an objective outside or not. All that really matters is it's a useful metaphor. It's a useful way of expressing things. So again, context is everything. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I totally am on board with you there. Yeah, that what you said about it being, you know, I mean, like all of this being an illusion. Do you watch Star Trek at all?
Oh God, I was a big Trekkie many years ago. Yeah.
So one of the and I'm not really into Star Trek, but my husband is, and so one of the movies, he and his wife get together like in this mountain cabin or whatever and spend time together.
Right.
But they're actually both like sleeping and they're separate. They're like light years away or whatever.
Right.
But they're having this experience together, like a vacation, and that's what when I think of that, that's what comes to mind. Like you're just having this illusion, and you can make it whatever you want. You can have your cabin in the woods or your hut on the beach or your, you know, whatever it is. And it's like, okay, you know, then like what you were saying, like it makes sense to you to kind of have that metaphor to go, oh, that's how it's working.
Exactly.
Like he wanted to have this experience with his wife in this, you know, in this mountain cabin. So they both agreed on it and then they went and did it, you know, but it was just an illusion.
Yep.
So,
and what we're really doing as deliberate creators, as Abraham calls us, is learning how to leverage, I would say, leverage the law of attraction to our advantage, to basically learn how to apply it to our own best advantage in our own lives, to have the kinds of lives we want to have, to create that illusion or to create that hut on the beach or whatever it is. You know, so that we can live the life that we want and actually experience it as if it were real. And it does seem real. I mean, we call it reality because it seems real to us. It seems very, very real, everything that's going on. This computer I'm dealing with, and a computer over here, and a monitor over here, and this phone, and they all feel real. You know, they feel real in every way. They're hard, they're tangible. And yet, from what quantum physicists have explained to us very carefully, they're just a bunch of thin air. There's just these molecules that we've all kind of come to the conclusion of deciding that they're hard and they're physical, and like, whoa, that takes a little time getting used to that. And then trying to apply the idea, well, if whatever thought process we apply, we can actually transmute the universe to create our particular environment in that way. Are most of us good at that? Now we're all kind of like kindergartners on that, but we're learning. And that's what's so cool about it. We are learning how to do it. And over time, I think we're going as a race to get better and better at it. I mean, 100 years from now, I think it's going to be mind-blowing what we're able to do. I mean, think about that.
I totally agree.
You know?
I know.
Crazy.
It just makes me sad that my conscious self right now won't be experiencing that. It'll be a different...
Well, I tell you, we've speculated on that one. From what Abraham tells us, the only reason we die is because we decide to die. What if we decide to live extra long lives, longer than anybody's living today, and to do so in a healthy way so that we're living a full life? What happens if you do that?
There's a part of me that's super curious what it's like to die. Not in a like a suicidal way or anything, but it's like, I think that's part of this whole experience.
Well, I think so too. Yeah. My only point is we don't have to be limited by the idea that we won't be here 100 years from now. If we want to be here 100 years from now, we can be. It's entirely up to us. Now, have we learned the skill yet? Most of us probably haven't learned the skill yet, but that doesn't mean we can't learn it. I believe we can. And I'll add to that yeah, I think the death experience is probably something, it's something I used to fear. I don't fear it anymore. And I've been intrigued by the various stories you hear. People who are psychic, people who are gurus who have shared information they've received from the other side and so forth about what the death experience is like. My sister, or well, actually my father, I mentioned my father who passed, passed 10 years ago last March. After he passed, 3 or 4 days after he passed, my sister, who has some psychic ability she's developed, got a message from my dad and asked him what it's like on the other side. That was her first question of him. And his answer came back that it was festive on the other side. Well, that doesn't sound like an unhappy thing at all. It sounds like it's a lot of fun, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And that matches up with what so many other people have reported that they've gotten in terms of what it's like on the other side. Now, do we have absolute real proof? No, but I believe it. And if you don't believe it, it's okay. But if you believe it, it's okay too.
I think everybody has their own personal proof on that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm convinced of it. And which is quite a thing to say. My sister and I had a conversation about a month ago. And my sister had actually introduced me to a lot of these concepts, not law of attraction per se, but a lot of these spiritual concepts, many, many years before I heard about the law of attraction. And I was very skeptical, very left brain, very mathematical mind and so forth. You know, everything had to be proven, all that kind of thing. And then I said to her last month, I said, well, can you imagine if you would, this thing that we're talking about right now, can you imagine if we'd been talking about it 20 years ago, what my reaction would have been? Or even what your reaction would have been to what I was saying? And without skipping a beat, she said, yeah, I would have fallen on the floor in shock at what you're saying right now. Because it was so completely out of character from where I was at that point in time. So even somebody who, like me, who was, I definitely came the hard road in terms of trying to believe this stuff. Because I definitely didn't believe any of it. I was about as non-spiritual as you can get. If I can get there, anybody can get there, is the way I look at it. Really, anybody can. It's just, it's just what you're willing to believe in and what experiences you're willing to say, yeah, that was a real experience. And I've had enough of them to say, yeah, those are real experiences. So we don't actually have a whole lot of questions going on here, so I figure we can just keep going with our conversations. But there were a few things I wanted to bring up. First of all, we had a caller today during the morning podcast, somebody who was calling on his way to work in the Los Angeles area, interestingly enough. Which I want to mention it because it fulfills a long-held desire of mine. Back in the day when I was doing this as once a weekly podcast, and for most of that time I was doing it with Joel Elston, who does the Thursday morning podcast with me. One of the things that we used to dream about was doing a twice daily podcast during the drive times for the West and East Coast. And taking calls from people during the drive times, right? And that was one of the reasons I set up the schedule like a year ago of doing a twice daily podcast. It was just to be true to that old dream. Well, yesterday was the first time we actually got to play out that dream. Somebody was in a car who was hearing the podcast live as we were broadcasting it and called in to talk to us while we're doing it. I got to live the dream. Now, it's only the first time. I wanted to do it a whole lot more after this. But I just had to mark the moment, and Sam, if you're listening in, thank you. You helped fulfill a dream. I appreciate that. But Sam made it possible for me for the first time to experience that dream of taking a call from somebody during a drive time while we're talking law of attraction. I just had to mark the moment. So that was great.
That's awesome. And LA's the ultimate drive time for sure.
Yeah, tell me about it, right? Yeah. I think they passed a law saying you have to live in your car. No, I'm kidding, but it seems like that sometimes. They have more highways per square mile than the rest of the country, I believe. But it's an amazing place. Something else I wanted to mention too. People have been asking about Louise ever since I told the story of the Christmas miracle and sending their best wishes and so forth. And I just wanted to give kind of like an update and say she's still doing much, much better. We did a physical therapy session today with her therapist, and she was able to do things that even a week ago, after getting out of the hospital, she couldn't do, and certainly couldn't have done 2 or 3 weeks ago. So definite improvement being shown, and we're certain that all of those wonderful wishes that you've been sending have been helping tremendously to reinforce her own ability to attract what she wants. And she wanted me to make sure that I told everybody thank you very, very much for all the well wishes you've been sending, because we really appreciate them. We really do. It's one of the reasons, Shelley, I like to say we have the best fans in the world. We really do. We have people who send us all kinds of greetings and so forth. It's great. Oh, I love it. So let's see.
That's awesome.
December 31st, we're at the last day of 2018. And we kind of touched on that a little bit this morning, but I wanted to bring it up again because this is the time of year when people say, well, time to make my resolutions. And Louie and I had our take on it this morning, but I'm curious what your take is. Do you do resolutions? Is that something that you make a part of your New Year's celebration?
Not anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 47 now, and I kind of stopped doing them when after I turned 40, because I just kind of realized that, like I was saying, I like to make the best of every day, and I had a great 2018. It was probably the best year so far. I mean,
wow,
it just keeps getting better, and I got some new stuff in the works as far as career and stuff this coming year that I've started, and so I'm just looking forward to the adventure. So, I mean, yeah, I just kind of want to keep doing what I'm doing. I just want to keep being happy as I can be and being as positive as I can be and inspiring others as much as I can and having fun in life. So that's like, there's no real resolution. I'm just like the one post on Facebook that says I'm just going to keep being my awesome self. So.
Absolutely. Well, especially when you've had a year like that one, because that's when you get, I mean, we all want to have the reinforcement of the real world experience. You know, we're putting out these wishes, we're putting out these desires, we're getting ourselves into those happy spaces, but we want to have some results too, because that kind of provides the fuel that keeps us going. So when you've had a year like you've had, where you're getting all these phenomenal results coming in, boy, oh boy, does that do a lot for your self-esteem, your confidence, your belief in yourself, your belief in how the universe works. It really helps.
Yeah, and it's just amazing because this last year it really clicked. I'd had so many good things going, and everything just kind of clicked. And I'm not saying that my, life is just this fairy tale and I don't ever have any issues or anything.
Sure.
But it's just the difference of the way that I deal with it when it happens. If the car needs, a new part, or the dog needs to go to the vet, or, something like that comes up, it's a whole new thought process. It's not panic. And it might initially be panic for, a few minutes or an hour or two or something, but I'm really good at just bringing myself back and going, no, it's okay. Everything's going to be fine. And I don't know. It's just like that faith. Like, so many people are like, I have faith and I'm trying. And it's like, that's such a, those two things don't go together. Like,
not really, no.
Faith, and I think people don't understand what faith really is. Faith is unwavering knowing that it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not going, oh, well, I tried this and it doesn't work. Faith is knowing that tomorrow I'm going to get a better opportunity, and then putting it out there and letting it go because you're not worried about it. You're confident about it. And then the next night when you're going to bed, you're like, oh, it did happen, just like I thought it would. Because it gets to a point where when those things are happening, you don't even realize they're happening because you're expecting them.
Exactly.
And it's actually just the opposite of what you were doing. You're just putting your energy into a different thing. So instead of going, the car needs a new tire and I know we can't afford it and I don't know how I'm going to get around tomorrow because the car's stuck in the driveway, and then you go to bed the next night going, yep, I was right. The car's still in the driveway and I didn't go to work today and I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. And it's just the total opposite of that, of going, the car needs a new tire. I know it's going to happen. I don't need to know how it's going to happen. I just know it's going to happen. I'm confident that it's going to happen. And then you go to bed the next night going, yep, it happened. I got my tire fixed. I went to work. I went and picked the kids up, whatever, you need your car for or whatever. But it's just like, I think what you realize is you can put just as much energy into worrying and hate and complaining and problems as you can put into love and solutions and faith and confidence and, and it's just great when it all clicks.
Right.
That's the only way I can describe it, is it just starts to click and you're just like, oh, this is so awesome.
Yeah. And it's also easy to miss sometimes because it happens so naturally. It's seamless. Yeah. And you have to stop yourself and say, wait a minute, that's part of what I was attracting. I did that.
Well, just what you had to remind me of. So I have been wanting to be like a professional coach. I've been wanting to do like some sort of workshop or web program. I've done my own live videos for, on and off for the last few years. And I just get to the point where I'm like pushing, and then it just doesn't feel good. It's like I'm trying so hard to do this and it's not happening and I'm getting frustrated. And I just decided a few months ago that I was just going to let it go. It's going to happen organically and naturally, and I'm just going to still be inspiring to others and do my live videos when it feels right to do them. And then I was watching your video, and you're like, hey, if you I was making a bunch of comments, and you're like, you can come on if you want. And I'm like, no, I'm in my pajamas. I'm not coming on, But then you were like, well, then we kind of messaged back and forth, and you're like, well, my Monday person can't do it anymore. Would you want to be my Monday evening or afternoon person? And I'm like, sure. I've been doing videos. I have, I'm not scared to get on live and all that. And then you were the one when I said, oh, by the way, I just wanted to let you know, that I've kind of put out there is creating Happy Mondays, because I think it's important for people to create a life that they're excited and happy to get into Monday every week.
Right.
And you're like, yeah, and you're doing the Monday podcast. Like, isn't that? And I was like, oh.
Duh.
Like that didn't even cross my mind.
I know.
You said that. Like what you're saying, like you get so used to it that you're just like, oh yeah, okay. And then when it's pointed out to you, you're like, wow, that's so cool.
The same. I told you the story just before, and I told everybody the story this past Thursday of what happened with my wife over the holidays and leading up to it and so forth. There was that one incident where the physician's assistant gave us the wrong diagnosis, and so for 2 days we were dealing with the possibility that Louise had Parkinson's disease, which was scaring the daylights out of us. But during that whole time period, while we're going through that, I mean, we were both well, first of all, I love my wife so much that it wasn't hard to get into a high place. But I was in a high place of like, I am going to do everything I can to feed her as much positive energy as I can. And I know she's going to do all the work that she can in order to really get into a healing place and feel like she has good health and so forth. And I was trying to coaching her to do that and so forth. Well, we got the news 2 days later that it wasn't Parkinson's disease. It was actually this thyroid issue. And she gets I can hear her in the other room. I'd actually just finished a podcast. I hear her in the other room. She's taking the phone call. I go into the room and she tells me that it's not that they just got the word that it's actually a hyperactive thyroid. And I said, that's great. And she looked at me like, what are you talking about? I said, don't you remember? This means that you don't have Parkinson's disease. Like, oh, yeah. And she was like, flummoxed, like, oh yeah, it just kind of threw her that this meant that the other one, the thing we were hoping would go away, had just gone away. She was so in the midst of dealing with this new diagnosis, she'd just forgotten the whole thing. And it's so easy to do that. We all do that so regularly. So it becomes really important to do everything we can to notice whenever we ask for something and we got what we asked. So we don't just kind of skim over it. Because when you skim over it, you're throwing evidence away. You're throwing away the evidence that you've been looking for all this time to reinforce for you, yeah, this stuff really works.
Right.
So yeah, I've been making it my point this year to learn, to pay attention, to focus, to not just focus on what I want, but to pay attention to what's happening and see how it's actually coming together. And notice it when it happens, and notice when, oh yeah, I was actually focusing on X, and X is happening right now. There's the connection once again. Because the more that I notice it, the more, for me anyway, maybe it's different for other people, but for me, when I'm focusing and repeating the same experiment in a sense, over and over again, and getting the result over and over again. Yes, I focused on this, yes, I got this result. I focused on that, I got this result. I focused on that, I got this result. I focused on that, and got this result. If I do that over and over again, that builds my belief up. I start to believe that,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it really does work. It works every single time. I just have to notice it. I just have to pay attention. So that's a big thing for
Yep.
me. And I think Louie and I agreed with you, by the way, about resolutions. We don't really do resolutions. The way we were talking about it this morning was it's kind of silly to do a New Year's resolution because we're putting out rockets of desire all the time. Well, that's part of being a deliberate creator. We're cognizant of the fact that we're putting these requests out all the time, and that we're setting a determination to believe in X coming into our lives, whatever X is. That's setting a resolution,
Right.
So why do I need to have one day for doing that? I'm doing resolutions 365 days a year. I don't need to have a special day for it. So it just kind of seems superfluous to say it's New Year's Day. But I mean, it's not bad. There's nothing wrong with doing a resolution on New Year's Day. I just wouldn't limit myself to it because I'm doing it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think through this whole journey and this process, you have to be really open to the options. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many opportunities that can come your way. And I think there is something to be said for being specific. I think about my grandma, my mom's mom. She was just, getting older and she kept saying to herself, I just want a break. I just want to be able to just relax and not have to do anything. Well, she wasn't specific, and she got lung cancer.
Oh, geez,
And
yeah.
and she was forced to relax, and she ended up passing away from it. But I remember my mom telling me that she recognized that, and she, told my mom, in her hospital bed, told her, I should have been more specific on how I wanted to relax, because you can put out there, I want a new car, and then your car breaks down, and then you got to scramble to figure out how you're going to get another car because, you put it out there instead of putting, I want this specific car and I want it to, happen for the better, for the greatest good of all involved is kind of how I put it out there. Like, when I want something, I just put it out there in that format, and I just feel like that takes care of all the options. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think I do know what you mean. The way I think about the issue that you're describing here, the specificity issue, is kind of learning how to do the fine-tuning control of using this deliberate creation mechanism we have. And when I'm thinking about how to do that, I usually think about it in terms of where is my predominant mental state? What am I focusing on most of the time? Because unlike anybody else, I'll have a tendency to, let's say I have a pattern going on of repeatedly finding that there's something wrong with what's going on in my life. I'm always complaining about this or that or the other thing. I'm always complaining. And then I learned about the law of attraction. I learned about deliberate creation. And all I have to do is focus on the thing that I want, get really excited out there, and the universe will bring it to me. So I think, oh, wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great if like I got a new job and the new job paid twice as much money as the old job did? And I get really excited about it. And I put it out there, and then I go back to all the things that are going wrong in my life throughout the day because that's my habitual pattern. So what have I actually done? I created one little blip in my overall pattern of real good positivity, and then I fell into the old stagnant negative pattern that brought to me all the stuff I didn't want in the first place. And I'm spending 99% of my time on that. And then a month later, the new job that pays twice as much doesn't show up, and I say, well, this stuff doesn't work. Really? So I expect that if I spend 5 seconds on one idea that I really want and then spend the next 3 months on what I don't want, then the thing I want is going to show up. Really?
Yeah.
That's what I marvel at. And I noticed that pretty early in my exploration of law of attraction. I think it was right after seeing The Secret, because that was my first exposure to the whole concept. I realized that, okay, you're supposed to focus on your thoughts and you're supposed to control your thoughts. And I realized, oh my God, I have a slew of thoughts that are on the wrong track. I mean, and it seemed to me as if I couldn't even control them. There were so many of them. and they were constantly flowing through. And, I think I'd have this one corralled, and then this other one would slip through, and I'm like, oh my God, how do you, we're having 60,000 thoughts a day. How the heck am I supposed to control 60,000 thoughts a day? It's not possible to control 60,000 thoughts a day. That's the way it felt to me. So because I started from that perspective, of course, it turned into a long struggle, because I maintained the idea that there was a struggle, and it turned into a struggle. But even in that struggle, over time, I learned more and more to focus on what's positive. And it took me a long time. Why did it take me a long time? Because I believed it would take me a long time, and sure enough, it took me a long time, and it still is taking me quite a long time. But I'm getting better and better and better at it. The focus part is, it isn't just focusing on what you want, it's focusing consistently on where you want to focus. That's been my goal, is getting to the point where I am consistently focusing in the way that I want to focus. And even now, I've gotten to the point now where I think I focus at least 50% of my day the way I want to focus it. But there's the other 50%. I haven't gotten that yet. I still find myself falling into the old patterns. So it's what I'm working on. It's what I am devoting my attention to. This winter in particular, I'm really trying to spend more and more time doing my various, my processes, my things that I do. Everybody has, who's a deliberate creator, they have their processes. They do their meditation, they do their vision boards, they do their, I don't even know all of them. There's like the 2-cup method, and there's all these other things that people do in order to...
There's so many.
Yeah, it's ridiculous how many there are. But it doesn't matter which ones they are. The point is, you have processes that you have found work for you, and that's what I do. I do the ones that work for me. Well, my goal has been to spend more time doing them, to spend a larger chunk of my day doing them. So, for instance, I've documented many times here on the podcast how I've had a lot of trouble since I can remember as a young child creating visual images in my mind. And it was only very recently I found out actually people could really do that. They could create real visual images in their mind. And I said, well, wait a minute, why can't I do that? I want to be able to do that. Well, while I'm still learning how to do that, I still needed a way to visualize. So, vision boards, that's one way to do it. But for whatever reason, vision boards and I just didn't connect. I just couldn't really get into them the way I needed to. So lately I've been exploring and experimenting with what I'm calling vision videos. I'll go onto YouTube, for instance, and I'll go look for a video on one particular topic that's related to one particular thing I'm trying to attract. And just like cutting out a photo and putting it onto a board, I'll take a piece of video and I'll save that little snippet of video in a file. And then I'll grab a whole bunch of these snippets, and then I've got some video software that I can make videos with, and I'll take them and I'll start putting them together into video. So I've actually built up my video to like a 10.5-minute video so far. And my goal is just to keep adding to it and adding to it and adding to it. And then I'm playing this video for myself every day. Like watching like looking at a vision board. But I'm playing the video, and as the video plays, I imagine myself being in the scene, whatever the scene is. And I feel the scene as much as I can feel it, and I get myself really excited before I'm watching the video, and then while I'm watching the video, and I keep building the excitement as it goes on. So I've developed this project of creating vision videos, I guess I'm calling them, and I want to spend as much time as I can in that vision video space so that I'm spending a large chunk of my day focusing on what I want. And I'm already experiencing that the more that I do that, even if I just add like an extra 10 minutes a day compared to what I used to do before, I feel the difference. I feel the difference in my life. It's that 10 minutes less spent on focusing stuff that I don't really want to focus on leads to me feeling demonstrably better than I did the previous day. And so it's giving me an energy, it's giving me sort of a juice, a desire, a motivation to keep doing this project and to keep finding more and more ways to spend more of my time each day focusing on what I like, what I want, and what I want to attract into my life. And that, I'm realizing, is it's a way of building that momentum they talk about. That's what the vortex is, right? The vortex is like a momentum place. You either have this positive momentum where everything is going in the direction you want to go in and it all feels good, or you have the negative vortex and you're going into this really, really bad spin, you're spinning out of control and so forth. Those are the two general momentum directions. Well, I'm trying to build this positive momentum, and it's interesting, it's true. When you focus on spending more and more time just doing your processes, you build that momentum up just by doing that. it almost doesn't even matter what the content is, which is pretty cool. And I'm enjoying that part. So I'm going to keep doing it.
I think that what you just said, I'm enjoying that part because when I tell people my success story, they're like, what did you do? What'd you do?
Right.
Like I've talked about before, like they want the magic button, and it's like, my magic button isn't your magic button.
Yes.
What made me enjoy that process is not necessarily going to be what makes you enjoy it. Because there are people that have changed their entire lives with a vision board. But like you said, you just don't click with that, but you click with video.
Exactly.
And I think it's important that whatever that process is, that it has to be enjoyable to you.
Yes. Yes.
You know, it's enjoyable for me every morning to do yoga and listen to a meditation or a YouTube video about positivity or abundance. That's what does it for me. I start my day with that, and it feels good. It's enjoyable to me. But other people might be like, I don't want to start. I don't even want to get out of bed in the morning. Like, I'm a morning person. Just in the last year, I started getting up around 5, but I used to get up between 4 and 4:30.
Wow.
Just because I loved that quiet time in the morning. I think it started when the kids were little, you know,
Sure.
and
Yeah,
you know, and it was just like I would have like this time in the morning where I didn't have to deal with getting kids ready or you know whatever, and I would just have my little time, and I'd have a cup of coffee, and I just, you know, it was before even Facebook, you know, it was just like I would just sit and read or meditate or something, and now I'm just naturally an early riser, you know, so I enjoy that time. And I think that what's intriguing to most people when I talk about my success with finances, and they're like, what'd you do? What'd you do? And my simple answer is just to fall in love with the energy and the flow of money. Like, so many people have such a love-hate with money, and it's like you have to love it when it comes in and love it when it goes out and appreciate it and have gratitude for your rent or your mortgage and your lights and your water and your car and your, you know, food and everything. And people, you know, they get mad because they spend their paycheck and it's all gone. It's not all gone. You're, you know, you've just transferred into this other stuff.
I'm curious.
You know?
Do you have an actual process that you were talking about when the money's coming in and when the money's going out and you're paying bills and so forth? Do you have a process each time that you pay a bill or you receive a paycheck or whatever?
Well, not really. My process was I just rethought about how I felt about money. So I used to be like, you know, like say the car needed a new tire. I could feel it like in the pit of my gut, like just that, you know, just that, like I felt it physically, like it was just like this stress, like how are we going to do this? Like, I don't know how we're going to do this. Like, got all these bills to pay and all this debt and all this, and it was just that faith thing I was talking about, but I just decided to appreciate. I can't even really totally.
Like, is there like a little dialogue that you do with yourself, a little self-dialogue? Do you do like a conversation?
A little conversation with myself was, I love money because it comes when I call, and I say yes to money. And I would also, I started putting cash in my wallet, and it started with like a $5 bill. I didn't, you know, I just would have like a 5 and a couple ones or whatever. I would just make sure I always had cash in my wallet. And when I would start stressing about whatever, I would just go grab my wallet and I would open it up and I would smell the money and I would say, I love money because it comes when I call, and I say yes to money. And, you know, it was more than that. You know, it was just like a whole mindset. But Jake Ducey, he's got a whole bunch of videos. If you find him on YouTube, he talks about doing that. And just how smell is such a strong sensory for your subconscious. Like, you can smell like a perfume or something, and it can bring you back to like your grandma's house when you were 3. You know, like smells can really trigger your memory and and different experiences, or, like a friend's house, or, whatever, And so, I'm really sensitive to smells anyways.
Ah.
And so I was just like that really worked for me. And I was just telling my husband, cause there for a while I had several $100s in my wallet.
Mm-hmm.
Cause it just grew and grew and grew. And, through the holiday season, that kind of diminished. The kids need $20 for this, or, I'm buying coffee or lunch or whatever. And it came down. I literally had like $15 in my wallet. And I remember thinking, I was kind of getting that stress again. Like, I don't have very much money in my wallet. And then I was like, no, it'll happen. Don't worry about it. Just let it go, having that faith. And then, we sold like 4 things on OfferUp because I'm a reseller. So, and I sell locally. So
right.
When I sell locally, it's all cash. And now I'm back to, I have like 60 or $80. I don't even know how, like, it's like I don't even worry about it. It's not like I pull out my money and go, I got $80 in there today. I know I have like somewhere between 60 and $80 in my wallet right now. And it's like, and it was like that thing where it's like, you remember, I knew that this was going to happen, and here it is like 2 or 3 days later, and we just sold something, and we're splitting the money to put in, he's putting it in his wallet and I'm putting it in my wallet, and it's like, oh, okay, that works.
I love the fact that you caught yourself. That's something that I've been trying to do a lot more of, catching myself. Like, for instance, we needed to get some gas because we went to Rhode Island. We were supposed to spend Christmas Eve in Rhode Island with Louise's brother and his family. And, of course, because she had to spend the night in the hospital, we couldn't do that. So Sunday, we drove to Rhode Island, and we kind of did our Christmas with them then. Fortunately, her nephews were still there, so we could really do the whole thing, just doing it a few days late, which was great. Well, in the course of getting ready to go to Rhode Island, I checked the gas tank and saw we didn't have enough gas. I had to get some gas. Okay. I started to do this old routine of mine of trying to save pennies on the gallon of gas. And figuring out, if I drive over here and spend an extra half hour driving over there, I can save enough that I'll have saved $2 on my fill-up, And I was on that path for like 5 or 10 minutes, and right before I finally said, Walt, what are you doing? You're trying to save $2, and you're spending hours doing this. What the hell are you doing?
Exactly.
So the important thing was catching myself and saying, I don't have to stress out about that kind of stuff. It's just $2. Don't even worry about it. It's not a big deal, And you're talking about the money in your wallet. Actually, we've sold a few things because we had to close down the office for Louise's gardening business. We're in the process of making some changes, and so closing the office was part of that set of processes. And we've been selling off some of the stuff that was in the office, computers and chairs and desks and that kind of thing. And as we've been selling it off, we're splitting up the money, and I've been putting it into my wallet. So I probably got a few $100s in my wallet. But I'm used to having next to nothing in there because most of the time I don't carry much cash. And most of the time, I don't think about the fact that I have all this money in there. So here I am trying to save $2. I've got all this money in my wallet. I've got this large amount of cash. And what am I focusing on? I'm focusing on the fact that I need to save $2 on a fill. I was like, what?
Yeah. And that's just like that. That's just your habits. And I'm such a bargain hunter. I grew up garage sailing and thrifting. My parents had a secondhand store. My mom managed an antique store for years and stuff. And so, I'm a bargain hunter, like I make lists when I go grocery shopping and, I just do all of that. Yeah. And I'm the same way. Like I'll go get gas and I'm like, we use like our rewards card so we can get like 10 cents off and, but we share the card. And so it's always like, did you use the 10 cents? And it's like, when it really comes down to it, like it is just a couple bucks. Like, prepare, just throw up the car and move on,
Look at all the stress we save ourselves when we catch that, though, because I did put some stress in. I was stressing myself for a good 5 or 10 minutes, but then I caught myself. I realized that I could just let it go, fill up at the nearest station, hit the road, and all the stress left. And I was able to take that deep sigh like, oh, this feels so much better.
Oh, yeah.
And once you're in
Yeah,
that,
and then-
this much feels so much better. Now it was so much easier to get ready for the excitement of going to do a Christmas. So 5 days after, 6 days after Christmas, we were going to do Christmas again. Now get excited about that, instead of stressing about $2 on a gas pump. I mean, it's crazy what you can do. But you got to do that refocusing. That refocusing makes all the difference in the world.
Yep, it does. It does.
We've got a couple minutes left. I want to make sure I get our announcements in because I have to admit I've been remiss. Part of it is because I was so heavily involved with helping Louise that when we got through and had our Christmas miracle and so forth, it's like I forgot about how to do podcasts. I forgot to do the scheduling. I forgot to announce when we're doing the podcast, this is the kind of thing we want you to do. I forgot to do all of it. It just went completely out of my mind. So I'm trying to get back into that habit.
I was in the car with my daughter when I got your text, and you're like, "Are we doing the podcast?" I'm like, "What?"
I was still on the old schedule. I was just that shows where my mind's been. It's not been on podcast the last week. But no, I do want to make sure I get the announcements in. So first of all, if you're not yet a subscriber, please become a subscriber. It's really easy to do. Most of the places where we're posting this, we will include the links, and you just find the right link for your device, click it, and it walks you right through it. If you don't see the links, just go to the homepage of our website, loatoday.net. You'll see great big icons, one for Android users, one for Apple device users, iPhones, iPads, and so forth. Just click the one that applies to you, and it'll just walk you through the process of becoming a subscriber. And then once you're a subscriber, like all of our subscribers, we ask you, every time you're listening to or watching one of us doing the podcast, post the fact on social media, share it, because that's probably how you found out about it. Somebody shared it, somebody showed it to you, somebody you were connected to, and you found out about the podcast, so that's how you got your daily dose of happy. Well, spread the good cheer around. The more that we do that, the more listeners we get, and the more people. This is my dream, Shelley. My dream is that we're reaching tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people. They're all getting their daily doses of happy every single day, and then I just try to imagine how does that change the world? Because I know it's going to change the world. You get all these people attracting what they want into their lives. How can that not change the world? It actually boggles my mind sometimes when I think about it. So, yes. Please become a subscriber and please share. And those are our two main messages. And thank you for being a subscriber and a listener, because we love every single one of you. And I also want to reiterate, a couple of our listeners that had been mentioning they've been dealing with illnesses over the holidays. And I know one of them is back. Nasha, I know, is back. I haven't heard from Deidre yet, but we're wishing both of you good health and good recovery real soon. So, yes, that's also one of the messages. So, Well, it's everything, right? Everything is important. Every little detail of our lives is important to recognize, to pay attention to. Even if it's something that is not going well, we still need to recognize it. Sometimes we have to go through a negative emotion, or a few negative emotions. But you got to go through them so you can get through to the other side, because that's where all the good stuff happens. So I want to make sure we touch on that base every time. But even though we didn't have a whole lot of listeners, I think it's partly because I just didn't get all my promotions done, so the people didn't know we were doing the show on the schedule. I didn't even know we were doing it on this particular schedule this week. So.
And everybody's partying right now too.
Oh yeah, they're getting ready to go out and watch the ball and so forth. So wherever you are in the world, if you actually part of our listenership, they're actually in New Year 2019, and whether you're already there or nearly there or whatever, we just hope you have a safe and happy and wonderful and healthy 2019, and we hope that you continue to listen, of course, and we just wish you the best of everything that you want in your life, because that's what we all want as human beings. So, what's your final word on 2018? Because we have to leave 2018 behind.
I hope it was good, and I hope 2019 is better.
Yeah, ever better. Well, it is always better. No matter what happens, it's always better. When you look backward, you realize that it's true. So, okay, well, good. Well, then I look forward to doing it with you again next week, this same time. I'll actually remember the time next week, I promise.
Oh, good.
I'll get it down. It takes a little time sometimes to change habits, but that's okay. I'll get it down. But look forward to talking next week, and we hope that you'll all join us next time as well here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.